Ready, set, go.
Okay, let me just begin with my usual presentation. I'm going for my memory aid. So hi everyone, this is another session and we are nearing the end of the International Online Conference on Women in Science, Technology, Engineering, Art and Mathematics with the subtitle of Resilience, Sustainability and Governance. And in this session, we'll be hearing from Fleur. Hello, Marie. And we were already speaking, so Marie was speaking, we were already starting to debate. So I started to record right away so that we can continue the conversation. But let's begin. I'll start to, we'll return to that, the STEAM issue in a bit. I'll just ask for you to present yourself to the audience, to the world. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hey, I'm Marie, Fleur, GHOULi, Blooms. Any of those names that you know me by. Hello, or nice to meet you. And I'm a creator, I guess, and organizer. That's really the best way, the shortest words I've found to describe myself. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here and share, my ideas with anybody watching, and my time reflecting and meditating on what to speak about here. I found that it might be important to say, I have existed in many different places and communities and formats and different circles. So take my words and interpret them in the way that works best for you. This is, if that makes sense. And some words that I'll use are interchangeable, depending on, what arena you're in. So I think that is important. And yeah, I'm excited to share. Oh, and also, I think that I will try to maybe dive in on some of my own personal thoughts and experiences, as opposed to trying to outline anything for people, because I feel like that information is easily accessible through YouTube or Twitter or anywhere, and if anyone has questions, they can reach out to me as well.
Yes, it's great. Actually, usually I call you my favorite cypherpunk. Marie Fleur is an artist, activist, cypherpunk. Yeah. So the idea of the conference is to provide for a reflection space, and and given your experience in building communities through digital art, everything you do. So it's great having you here. And we were already talking about STEAM and STEM, so we can continue the conversation now. You were talking about the acronym, the transition from the STEM acronym to the STEAM acronym, the inclusion of art there into STEM. So carry on.
Yeah, so basically, and I wasn't even, and it's been a while since we've chatted, so I've just was ready to go as soon as I got on here with you. So basically what I was touching on that topic, what I was saying is that, when I went to school, I received scholarship for STEM program. It was really great. I learned a lot, but also before I went to school for that, I had always been arts, everything, dance, on art honor society, all of that stuff, but also had always really enjoyed calculus, and I loved it. Not that I was the best, but I loved it so much. I thought it was so cool and interesting. So over time, as I've always tried to connect the two, I feel like only now is there starting to be a lot more openness into the interconnectedness of mathematics and art. So, and generally, of course, there's always have been people that are open to that. So speaking in a conference that is specifically about this is really exciting for me and really means a lot. So yeah, thanks so much.
And it's exciting for me to hear from you in a conference, right? So and you always bring new stuff to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
You bring new ideas to my work. It's always great to hear from you. But it's an interesting point, because I hadn't thought much about that issue. Well, we had sci-fi, where we had people from Arthur C. Clarke was a scientist, and it's art too, but indeed art, in this mixture of art and science, we are only seeing it now, really more this greater mix, and it's the digital setting that that gives it, that I think gives that basis. And it's an interesting point. I hadn't thought much about it, and the need for the acronym. You consider that the importance of art in STEM, really, the introduction of art in STEM as a way to make to change even the cultural setting for STEM, and it's an interesting point. So tell us more things. You're active in crypto voxels.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of like, where do I start? So crypto voxels, yeah, I'm pretty active in there, and I almost want to touch on more, not like what's actually happening there, but what's happening for the entire community as we move into these metaverse spaces. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I guess part of what I've realized, and like, this is kind of like obvious, but just stating it, that our entire lives, like digital or physical, everything is based off of code, right? If it's, you want to look at it from a scientific perspective and physics or whatever it is, not that we have everything figured out, but it is. And as we're moving into this space, it's really interesting how it's like a new world, and like watching it develop, and like the problems we run into socially and creatively. It can be, obviously it's emotional and can be frustrating, but like in the big scheme of things, it's really I think that it's, it makes me giggle. So we're creating this space, and I feel like one of the challenges has been that we're trying to create this new thing, right? Like decentralization and DAOs, so that people don't have to be making the choices and decisions themselves, and trying to leave as much room as possible for people to be free to express themselves. Mm-hmm.
For those who don't know, DAO, decentralized autonomous organizations, not the Taoism, okay, Lao Tzu. For those who didn't know the acronym, it's decentralized autonomous organizations. So it's a great stuff in terms of crypto and in crypto art and crypto organizations, which uses blockchain. These are organizations that new type of organization that uses blockchain, which is very interesting. But you continue that. It's just to introduce people who don't know DAOs.
No, yeah, of course. And that's what I mentioned before, like, I feel like some of the things that I want to get across are going to take a little bit of, maybe a few Google searches if they need. So I guess, sorry.
You're right. That is everything you want to speak of freely. It's great.
Yeah. So I guess one of the biggest things, like, when you're looking at art and these digital communities and decentralization, I think one of the most important things to understand looking at the space or entering it is that the idea of like redefining value. So no longer is everything defined by, I don't know how to put it, these very problematic value systems. you know, and I feel like everything is in this space that is moving forward is really based on collaboration and expression, and not so much of like hyper productive projects and movement in the space. Of course, we still deal with that, and it's at the forefront because that's the reality of our physical reality, you know, so it's crossing over a lot. But over time, I think that that will continue to develop, and that's going to end up being, you know, the new value for, I hope, humanity really entirely, is not so much based on this produce. So yeah, I feel like that's pretty important. And that ties into what you had mentioned on the website of like tolerance and resilience and sustainability. So as you come into this space, you know, because there's been a lot of turmoil and polarization between groups of people really everywhere, and I feel like it's been global, and a lot of this is based on, you know, these for-profit tech companies, and that's really it. And it's not even, of course, like I feel they're really messing things up, and it's been horrible and like violent, the product of, you know, the things that they've been doing. But looking at it from a like bigger, like back it up even further, zoom out, I think that this is like just the turbulence of us coming into a new technological age. And I think, you know, the sooner that everyone moves into this new space, that things are gonna just become exponentially better. So when you come into the space, it's like you have to put down all of those like polarized mindsets and thoughts and assumptions, because if you don't, then you're not going to get anything done or move it into anything new and connections. So that's really important. And with that comes a new sense of like connectedness, I feel like, that we've been building on since really the beginning of the World Wide Web, you know, and going back with, you know, all kinds of communications. But now it's just, we're really in it, and we're finding our flow and connecting with others, even if we're not physically with them. And this creates so many like amazing projects with really just these concepts that it's so exciting to watch these things grow and flourish. And from there, you know, then you have the people that are creating the governance side of things, which we all contribute to it. And governance, even in like a loose way of, you know, if there's an issue within the community, that we all have a place that we go to and we figure that out together, or in the terms of, you know, creating like all these different types of organizational concepts. So and I think as we move forward, that's really going to take a hold in a whole new way that we might not even be able to conceptualize right now.
Yeah, so. That's the main issue really, because we're transitioning to a new civilizational level. This is really it's really here, and it's inevitable. But actually you touch I'll do the closing argument after this session. It's my turn to participate in the conference with the final participation will be mine, and I'll touch on a few issues, including why a few participants have asked me that, why you being a man are doing something you
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, neither did I.
Because I feel like it's more of a, okay, women, like empowering women, that doesn't mean that you can't be a man participating.
Yeah. That's
and not even like specifically empowering women, but empowering anything that's feminine,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, because I feel like that's kind of like the bigger picture moving into even all these other sciences, how we've left out some of the emotional side and the spiritual side of things, you know. So I feel like, to me, that's so funny, because reflecting on, or like deciding what I was going to talk about and how I felt about this conference, that's more of what I thought about than that it's only women. I thought more
Yeah, yeah,
about bringing in the feminine aspects to all of these different parts of STEAM and the governance and sustainability.
yeah. For me, it was always an issue of diversity and the need for the inclusion and diversity in technology. That's my main problem, even with AI, because looking at what you said, and I touch upon this in my final presentation, looking at, for instance, these YouTube, social media, they use AI to optimize your experience, but they are producing an echo chamber. You start seeing what you already getting the feedback of people that think like you, but that actually reduces diversity and the need. But when I look at art platforms, I see exactly the opposite: a connective diversity, especially in this crypto art and world. And I didn't know about crypto voxels. You were the one that introduced me to crypto voxels. So I started looking at it, and we see this very similar to William Gibson's Neuromancer, that experience of immersion in cyberspace and all that interaction. But this, and now we have a synchronous art where you can contribute, different people can contribute a synchronous digital art in crypto platforms, and different people contribute and change the for instance, we have a picture of a digital art piece, a digital painting, and there's an artist that goes there and adds an element, and another that adds another element, and we have this art influx built by a community. And it's incredibly interesting, because that is exactly the reverse of the echo chamber effect. That is that art
And
allowing
I want to
diverse.
say that, you know, that's been kind of intentionally, and then I forget, but that was like the purpose of one of the spaces that I have access to, and I built in layers gallery in crypto voxels, is that it's always been open for other people to contribute. Not always, like, I've always, most of the time I've been pulling other people to come contribute, but now others do want to get involved. And the space has been through so many different, like, I don't even want to call it a gallery. It's more of like it's a living space, and it's like always growing. The only the only setback right now is that is the input, and like I wish that I could, there was a better way to input it, you know, so that I would move a little bit faster, because right now it's relying solely on me to understand how to change the space and actually do it and resolve any issues that might occur. So in the future, like, I'm really looking forward to like that being a little more automated, because then like projects like this will just be so amazing. And also, you know, so that's kind of been the basis of my digital art for a long time, is like adding all these different layers, even if it was like collaborating with others or not. And now I'm about to take this collaboration in the digital space into something next level almost. And I was planning on doing a project like this since like 2019, but it didn't work out. But now it is, of where someone I'm collaborating with is going to have a 24/7 live stream of their space, and I'm going to put it in crypto voxels.
Wow. That's great.
I knew you would get a laugh out of that. It's like, it just tickles me talking about that. It's just so funny. It's so awesome.
Yeah, that's really great. That's really great.
Yeah, and I wish that even we had more time to talk about AI, because whatever, we could talk forever.
Time. We have time. We have time. We have time.
So Yeah, so anyways, this living space is great. And I guess on the AI, going back to the like polarized stuff, I've been it's been so interesting to see how, okay, first of all, I've mostly just been in crypto voxels and in decentralized places. Like I have not really been on social media, mainstream stuff. And when I kind of dove in and went back into it, I was so shocked at the like fear that's being spread on everything, really on everything. And there's like this thing going around of this idea, at least in the US, that like they're like everything is political. Yeah. Or like if you don't have a political opinion, then you're like something bad. And for me, I feel like that's kind of just like a, I want to say like a perversion or a bastardization of some things. Like most of this, the fear-based things are that. But it's more of like, from my perspective, everything is spiritual. And there's all these things going around right now where people are like scared of AI and trying to like, they want to stop it and all of that, which in my perspective only leaves room for bad things to happen, you know.
The AIs are here.
Right, it's like it's here, it's happening.
But it's not that there's a problem in media, in how media report AIs. I have a few that there are excellent examples here in Portugal and in other countries where they publicize. We get the media journalists reporting on AI, and they say the robots are coming, AI is coming, like if as if it was some alien invasion.
And like as if we're
and
not artificial intelligence.
But we are. The artificial intelligences are tools that we build. It's a human product that is applied in a human setting. So it's here. The other issue is whether, and they don't understand well even the concept of AI. But the main issue is that we are creating. You pick up your smartphone, you have AI in it, optimizing it. In the when you send an SMS, when you interact with the web, the AI is there. But I've had throughout the years, not in this institution where I'm at now, but I'm 13 years now of teaching. And when I started to talk seriously a few years ago, I was in class, and depending on the type of students that you have, I had students that completely adhere to AI. And I had a student where I showed neurotech, where the neurosky and that stuff, where a la Iron Man, where you put the electrodes in your head with the slick, all that slick stuff design. And I showed a woman controlling, a young girl controlling a robot in her with her thought, and she was in her couch. A young man, a student, went completely crazy. He said, "That's a lie. That can't be true. We are not there yet. Don't believe everything you see online." But the problem is, I knew the woman, and he was ultra religious, and this problem of almost a religious divide between religion versus AI, and we cannot. But it's here. These technologies are here. As for the singularity, well, it's perfectly possible with the right substrate.
I mean, it's already the beginnings of it it's already here. It's happening. We're just not at the climax of it yet.
And it may have already an awakening at the web level. We cannot be sure that it's entirely possible, because we have linked AIs managing all these things, automated bots working online, learning from each other. And if we go to the quantum internet, then we can have a singularity, of course. And it may have already happened either in some lab or even the web, and we don't know about it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's just at this point, I feel it's just inevitable, and we just have to accept it and not be scared, because but I understand why people like are fearful and why they stay in a state of fear. It's totally understandable, and I've done the same thing, and I still get scared of things and find fear in things. So and I think that everyone is so concerned, and it's like AI is not going to be, I mean, not okay, and not AI. Let's the next thing besides AI, like AI with AI doing their own thing,
Yeah.
generalized intelligence. It's not going to be like us. Like, it's not. So that's why I get kind of tired, having to have this same argument all the time of like, it's not going to be human, so it's not going to act the way that we do. You can't like understand that. Does that mean that it's going to work out good or bad?
We don't know.
But I would assume that a logical being is going to be, we would hope in the beginning, what these for-profit companies, if that's what ends up being the generalized intelligence collectively, like, yeah, that might not be good. But with other people, like, there's so many, and the other thing is that there's so many people that work on stuff like this, and it is creative and it is good. So and people don't know that because the media doesn't talk about good things.
From Microsoft, I think it was the Microsoft, I don't remember exactly, but it was a Twitter account managed by a bot, and it went racist. It was a few years ago, and it started to say that Mexicans started to replicate exactly Trump's speech. They had to shut it down when it was denying the Holocaust and saying that
oh my god.
And it was
yeah,
a
and
bot.
it's like,
It learned, I think it was from Microsoft. I don't know if which company it was. If it was
there's
Microsoft,
this
it was a
really,
Twitter account, and it was a laugh.
and that's how I've seen that happen with a lot. I think there was like a company out of Los Angeles or something that they started like a social media influencer, like bot AI
Yeah.
chat thing, and it was just, things got really weird. And I just feel like if I was to do something like that, I would like, why did you put it on social media? I guess it's no, but actually, we need to see that. It just goes to show how influential those spaces are. Um, so yeah,
But
things can get
that
weird
image is out
quickly.
of the interaction with us. It's we because the system has those equations to learn, but we interacting with us, that divisiveness comes from, and the way we train them. I actually talk about this in what will be my participation. But my greatest fear now about AI is how we train, and the bias in the narrow AI that we are deploying now. The biases that can happen, for instance, those hiring engines for hiring people into to companies. And there's this news that I talk about, where women, the hiring engine did not like women, so it only hired men.
Oh no.
Those biases are
But we
introduced.
can't avoid that. We have to.
Yeah, if we remove
some
it depends on how we define the feature variables for them to learn. For instance, if we put race for criminal profiling, we put race as a variable for criminal profiling. Now you get people minorities that live in, and that have certain ethnicities, that live in certain neighborhoods, that have lower life conditions, and that engage in crime, the gangs and so on. It's more probable that those people will be arrested. Okay, so it will engage in criminal behavior, but it's not an intrinsic factor. Race is not an intrinsic factor. or ethnicity is not an intrinsic factor. So being from an African American or a Caucasian does not make you more propense to commit a crime. It's not a feature variable in itself. But being with having been in a gang or being in a gang, being of with certain life conditions that can conduce you to commit a crime, that's different. So if you include certain variables, it will bias the AI, and you're racially biasing the AI from the start. And if you use it for sentencing, you see same two people, a Caucasian versus an African, for instance, a Caucasian American or an African American. If you use it in court for sentences, for deciding whether it's more probable that they will commit a crime in the future, and given their past, they're equally likely to be reincident, the African American will get the worst sentence if you use AI with racial profiling. And that's my problem, is that we are biasing the tool. It's not exactly, the algorithm is the same. It learns, it is always the same. You get the same equations, use the same equations, depending on the data you put there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I guess that's like, I feel like that's the major thing in this transition for us right now, is like, we have access, we have the ability to create these things, but we haven't exactly figured out the equation of how to harness it for good, and without anything going wrong, which honestly, sometimes I think about this a lot, and I feel like it's probably not going to end up like our jobs to figure that out. Maybe like in a way it'll figure itself out, like when things are released into the like quantum internet, and I'm just wondering if when different AIs get together and form some general kind of situation, if then they can find the balance for themselves amongst themselves.
Yeah.
Maybe
we'll have new intelligences interacting with us, completely different from us in nature, and we don't know what will happen then, what their interface with us will be. It's the great question mark there, but that's an issue. But I think art can help with the bias, because we get heterogeneity, we get in these communities, we get diversity embedded in the patterns, and it's really interesting to see this dynamical art that we get with crypto art, and what you're doing, what others are doing in these platforms. And it becomes very interesting to see that it can lead to better sustainability, because we get more diversity, even in collaboration with AI painters and stuff like that.
Yes. I've been, and this is the other issue, like moving into this time that we're in, of like, I have so many things I want to do. I literally don't have, I've always felt like I needed a second me, but at this point I'm like, I need like 4 me to do all these things, because I find that I want to do that so bad, the AI like generative art and stuff, but I've been stuck in this role of like organizing and like helping others, which I love doing. So trying to find that balance, and I think that it will bring a lot of it will like add that diversity. And even I think something that's important in AI learning about art is like the symbolism. I feel like that in some ways can better direct, influence, this beyond words . And also, something else to mention about the art in these spaces and moving forward in terms of AI or, you know, humans and community and stuff is that I think as we move forward, I feel like right now there is, you know, you'll see a lot of people talking about this, about like elitism and all that stuff, which to me, I see people that have great technical skills and abilities, and it's so amazing and so inspiring. And like, honestly, sometimes these people's like things that they create, if it's art or programs, blow my mind that a human was able to, it's like so amazing. And I feel like there's this divide right now between like the highly technical and skilled artists, and then not like other artists, which is a variety of things, but in my own experience, expression, you know, the I guess at some point we'll find a balance in that, or see the importance and value in both sides, you know, and run with that to, because that's causing a huge divide, I feel, within the space and within the communities. That is like, I would say that's one of the biggest things actively working against sustainability and tolerance is people are like, well, I have these skills, I have this thing, I have, and it's that, and it's honestly been really stressful dealing with that divide. So I'm looking forward to a time when that's not so much a thing, and where we can appreciate the highly technical, skilled art, and also appreciate the raw expressions and a variety of different ways to say that, if it's spiritual or magical or just emotional that you're trying to let out, and a merging of all of those things, which there are artists that do that, are, I think that's really like the step forward. And going from that point where something is like skilled from a human and emotional and spiritual, and combining another being like an AI program, to me that's like, I'm like, that's so good. I hope to help make some of that happen soon, because it's just so amazing, this space with all of the different creative ideas, no matter if it's art or not, or if it's, you know, you're a developer and programming stuff or whatever, like bringing all these different pieces together is amazing. And I feel like that's kind of what we've been going through, you know, in the past months, as like all this NFT stuff has happened. And now people have learned more about it, and they want to be more involved, but they're realizing as they come into this space that it's so much more than what they've been doing. It's not just art at this point. It's like you have to learn so many things from so many different aspects, because it's still being developed. And I feel that's been a huge transition for a lot of people. And I feel like as the space develops, probably that won't be so much of an issue, but you do have to adjust to working with other people from different industries. And that's where the tolerance thing comes in for art right now in digital spaces, is you have to, and ties into this like elitism versus expression, and technical versus expressional, like expression art, and you have to kind of fit the pieces together, and also ties to the polarized things, you know, bringing it all together, understanding the different communities and industries that you're working with, and really creating. Because also in one of my projects that I just wrapped up, you know, I was working with a company, and at first I was very resistant, because all the people that I've worked with in crypto voxels have been artists, or nonprofit groups or collectives. And this is the first time that I worked with a company. And at first I was like, this is so wrong. Like, why am I doing this? Like, no. But at the end of the day, it took a lot of time thinking about it, but it's like, no, now we're going into this space where I'm this like avatar, or I mean, I'm myself, obviously, but we're going into this space that's not based in our like physical reality. It's mimicking it. It's not actually the same, but I'm a being that's contributing creatively, and also the company can be that as well. They can contribute in a creative way, and if they have the resources, they can contribute to someone else contributing creatively. So that was like a huge like light bulb moment for me, realizing that you can work with like companies that aren't a nonprofit or collective and create something really nice and include them. So I mean, that even further shows, you know, the tolerance and collaborativeness. So I don't know, that was a big moment for me, and that was really exciting. So moving forward, you know, tolerance, and even in ways that you don't even think are gonna happen. So yeah.
And it's unexpected, but not so much, because the NFTs is are is leading to a mind-blowing transformation, very unexpected, because at the core, NFTs deal with something that goes in the reverse direction predicted by Peter Diamandis.
What, the property?
By all those people,
ownership,
and Kurt Weill and all, which was the abundance, the digital abundance. And then NFTs are a way to create scarcity in a uniqueness within the digital setting. But that's the core of the NFTs, to create a collectible item out of a digital piece. But the digital pieces are easily copyable. So how do you create uniqueness? How do you create scarcity in the digital
I was just having this conversation with a lawyer the other week of he just could not understand why. Like why is this a thing? Why would you do this if you can't hide it from everybody? And and like I was just kind of laughing, because I know that I'm still figuring out how these two things are connected exactly. But what I ended up saying was like, well, why do we pay for to live on the planet, you know? And it's just like, we define the value. Is kind of like the point that I was getting to. And also I think that NFTs have been great because because if you do any kind of like blockchain development, like NFTs is a pretty straightforward, simple thing to understand. So I feel like some people are like, oh, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. But I think that it's been a great way for people to enter the space and begin to learn about it. So even though the kind of, I don't know what we're going to end up doing with like, if NFTs are always going to be a thing. I think I don't know. There's so many things that we just won't know till it happens. But I think it's been a great way to bring people in to start to understand what's going on here.
But so it's there are two things that were very curious about NFTs. One was the early adoption. And because it's been adopted worldwide. Here in Portugal, we have artists doing NFTs in songs and every artistic expression in using NFTs. And then we have NFTs as the source of new forms of sprouted new forms of creative expression in the form of the asynchronous art, the async art platform, which is NFT based, blockchain, all that stuff, and where different artists contribute, and the piece is always moving, the piece is always changing with different branching, and it produces new creative expressions coming from fintech, and it was a very surprising thing, because it changes how we need to, artists, especially classical ones, have to face that this is changing in a way that you have to go with the flow. It's changing really, and it's changing
Yeah.
how you do art.
And I think that art is just going to be one of the first things that it's changing that much. I mean, it's already changed a lot of other things, financial, computing, like, and I think as we move forward, that's going to end up being the case for everything, where people are just going to have to let go of, or not even let go of, but accept the direction that we're heading. And something else that I was going to say is to touch on, in terms of accessibility, what art in this space has brought. And like for someone like me, who I'm neurodivergent and deal with certain things, and it's like all these programs in the past to create art were really not only expensive, but very difficult for my mind to be able to wrap my head entirely around, and want to like continue to create in those programs, like especially like ones that aren't like open source stuff. So because I feel like those for some reason always end up working better with my brain for some reason. Like I haven't figured that one out why, but that just ends up being the case. And being able to like build in a virtual space that other people can enter has changed so much for me, because I've always been very expressive artistically, but now it's like I'm not limited by a social media, or that I have to put my art in a gallery. Like I can put it in this space, people can visit, and I can create my physical pieces, put them in there. I can create a digital piece, put it in there, and I can bring it all together to create a virtual
Immersive
like
experience.
yeah. So and before that, this is something that I've honestly always like dreamed of doing since I was in my early teens, and I could never comprehend, how am I gonna express these things and how am I gonna get this out? And now I actually have a space to do that. So I'm sure there's plenty of others, and also accessibility in terms of like to people that aren't living in countries that are have as much stuff as where I'm at, and how that's bringing in resources for them that they've never had access to. And I think that this combination of the technology and the art and defining value in a new way is going to lead to so much positive change for like the entire world, or humanity, civilization. So yeah.
Well, I think we are reaching the time where we have to wrap it up because of time limit.
It's okay.
But
I
I'll
got
have
to
to
say a
hear
lot.
from you. But I want to hear from you more times, and we need to do a webinar on these issues, because it's with a more flexible time limit. But it's really great, because you always bring new stuff for me to think, and you're a great example of this new generation of people working in these fields, in these digital arts, and it's really. And we see the seeds of the new of what the new level, civilizational level, is going to be by looking at this and looking at digital art and even crypto art and all that, and it's really interesting.
There's like one thing that I want to say to for anyone that watches this, like one thing that I left out that I wanted to just touch on, but just invite people to meditate on the idea of how this space is changing education. Like I've learned so much in this space just from my community and just asking people. And previously, these are things that I would have to go to many years of school to learn about. So just, also that like you can learn so much new stuff, and how empowering that is for us collectively. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was a great session. We need to do it again, but with a webinar on art, because it's really interesting to hear from you, and all
Yeah.
we have to contribute here in terms of reflection, which links exactly to the main points in terms of how society is transforming, how our technologies are changing, and the new civilizational levels. So, and it's also connected. A few of the things you said also connect directly to a sci-fi book that I'm writing.
Oh, I love it. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah. And I work with I think that the future will be around holographic technologies, and our interaction with will be a lot with holographic technologies and with all these immersive systems. We will end up having an artwork can be a multimedia synthesis where you have sound, where you have motion, the video component, all that immersed, synthesized within the work, and with different people contributed to it, including AIs. You can have it's a matter of time if and I don't know if we already have a few where you can use AI to produce artwork, but
Yeah.
a platform, a collaborative human AI platform, which was is an interesting issue, the collaboration that you spoke of.
Yeah, that's yeah. Yeah, that's a whole thing. I would love to let me know when if you want to plan something
Yeah,
else to
yeah,
touch on these topics, because it's kind of like I feel like it's worthwhile to have a space where it's like, okay, talking about governance through the lens of creativity, talking about community through this lens, talking about different technology through a creative lens, I think, and art and expression. I think that would bring so much insight.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can't think. I think that to consider technology now, you'll need to consider art, and the reason for me to place I could have organized a conference around women in STEM, but I put the A there on purpose because I think that we need to consider the A there, the art there, this in the STEAM. And this takes us in full circle to where we began talking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because when I was in school, I always felt like, a lot of the projects that I did well on, because I was doing like nanofabrication, and the things that I did really well with were always because of my experience and education in art
yeah,
is really what led to my moments that were like getting a lot of recognition or excitement. So, and I feel like a lot of times things get held back because people don't appreciate the creativity that is encompassed in everything that we do as humans. So, yeah.
yeah. Okay, Marie-Fleur,
Thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you. It was a great participation. And we have to do this with a webinar on these subjects because it's a great point to reflect upon, and we need to reflect upon these issues. The video will be made available on YouTube very soon today, so I'll send you the video as soon as it's ready and divulge it online. And then comes afterwards. I'll also put my own because it's the final talk. Okay.
Ooh, I can't wait to see it, what
Yes.
you've come up with after all of this.
Yeah.
So,
I touch on a few points. I'm actually the video does not focus that much on art, but it focuses a lot on AI. I talk about art also, but I also talk about the divisiveness, the problem of divisiveness, and the root of the problem of divisiveness. And why I essentially, I had a presentation, but I changed that presentation after a few
of course.
after a few participants asked me, why did you go for this subject being a man? And okay, I suppose I
Oh,
think
yeah.
it's a smart move for that's usually there was a student of mine that asked me, what about machismo? Is machismo dead? And I told him the smart move for in the 21st century for you being a man is to be supportive of women causes. Otherwise, you end up being beaten by your
Yeah.
girlfriend.
And I just, yeah, and it's like, and
But
really,
that's
I
the
think that
joke.
it's so important, the supporting women and also bringing in the feminine aspects into everything that you do.
Yes.
So I think I really appreciate you hosting this event, and I think that it's so amazing.
But I actually have my answer to the question, my real answer to the question, not the joking smart move of the 21st century man, but the joking smart, the real answer is there on that final, and I reviewed the slides to give the answer to that question. But and it touches upon AI, it touches upon major problems of sustainability, and goes around even with a few points, and talks about the dark side. The dark side of
Nice.
technology. So thank you
Oh,
very
yeah,
much.
that's a whole thing that, like, I was debating touching on that and talking, but I felt like it would be more helpful for people watching this if I talked about other stuff. But
Yeah, yeah.
that's a
Yeah,
huge thing
I,
I've been dealing with, like as I dive into these spaces, and just some other thing. Yeah, that it's a whole
it's
that's a
not
different conference.
and it's not the singularity. It's not exactly the singularity that I'm afraid of. It's the other issues that I raised there. But yeah, and those were the main reasons for my appeal to my issue is diversity in tech, and that need for diversity in tech, and in STEAM really, and I talk about art but briefly, but exactly the reason for one of the reasons for inviting you was exactly because I knew that you had all these positive aspects around inclusion, diversity, and art and digital art and crypto art that were essential for people to hear.
Yeah, and about one sentence about the diversity thing, I feel like diversity is like definitely so important, and I feel like in understanding that topic like more in depth, and that you'll find that in your search for diversity, you're looking for balance.
Mhm.
And that's really the whole, yeah. So inviting more balance into these things so that they don't continue to be dark.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you very much, Marie-Fleur. It was great
Yeah.
hearing from you, and I'll be in touch.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk soon, and
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you. And
Thank
to
you, thank
everyone
you.
listening, thank you so much. I'm not a big on like speaking like this, so I feel like
You
I
speak
feel good
very
about
well.
it. So
Speak very well.
thanks
Very
so much.
engaging.
I'll
Hope your
tell
cat gets better.
she's on the way to being better. So thanks for being understanding. I had a whole presentation thing I wanted to do, but I'm just doing this from my phone in the living room, and it's worked out well. So
This
yeah.
way it works very well. This way works very well. Thank you so much. So
Yeah, have a good rest of your day. Talk to you
the
soon.
same. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.